Thank you.
So, just to tell you where we are and what we're doing. Hello. We are just packing up, ready to go out painting, and we're heading off to Winterton and Horsey Gap, and we're going to go and look for the seals. It's a little bit late in the season, but you know,
You can try, can't
there's
you?
going to be some seals there. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit late, but we're going to go Winterton, Horsey Gap. We're going to sit on the beach. We'll do some sketching. We may see some seals. Well, we will see some seals, but we won't see lots of the babies.
No, okay.
But we've taken lots of film of the babies earlier on in the year.
Which we'll show you.
Yes. And we're going to have some fun, and it's so lovely to be back painting
It
together.
is actually, with you.
Yes, so welcome to our conversation, and let's get going. Now, here we are at Winston Beach, and this is the Coast Watch station. And there's a lady in an orange jacket there collecting funds because, I will show you in a second, the erosion has reached the point where they're going to have to move the Coast Watch station. Okay, so here we are on the edge now, panning back along, and this is where the cliff has broken away, and that's where the Coast Watch station is. And they've got to move it. So you're using the car park funds to... There's our lovely Sharon, to move the Coast Watch station. This is the entrance to the car park, and it was a cafe bridge, but that one fell in the sea last year. So you can see all the red barriers where they walked off the end of the road. Hi there! So what are you sketching here, Sharon?
Well, I'm looking, if you look above me, you can see the curve of the coast that vanishes to nothing. I mean, it's a grey day and everything's just disappearing into nothing. But I like the tractor sitting on the beach there, big wheels. And he's got the trailer because he's put the boat into the water, he's brought it down to the water. And I'm going to put the fishermen's huts up here. A couple of people up here who are going to be walking the path back up through the dunes. So we just give the idea that we've got shapes there, 2 legs and a head. There's a coat, a couple of feet. I mean, if you want a dog on a lead, that's all you need, just a little bit of a blob. I like the warning signs up here because that is something that is synonymous with so many beaches, so if we can get that in, that's quite fun. And we want to try and get this sweep through of the way the cliffs sort of eroding away, so that's quite a good thing to do. And then also we've got this line of grasses and scree here at the bottom. I'm calling them cliffs. I mean, you don't do cliffs on this coast, do you?
We don't do cliffs in Norfolk. This is about as good as we get.
So this is a Norfolk cliff.
Well, also that pile of scree at the bottom is where the cliffs are eroding.
Yes. So I want to get that in to give the idea of that. Up here, interestingly enough, we've got little kind of beach huts here. So just a teeny bit of perspective there. But above, there's one through here, and another that we're looking at here. And again, just give the impression, but through that gap up here we have a lighthouse. So we've got the black walkway around the top of it, and then the lantern, and the lantern has the little hat on top.
You can just see it in the camera screen.
Like that.
That's the trouble. We're sitting here and there are seals bobbing around in the sea all around us,
and we can't
but they're
show
just
you.
too far away because they're just not going to be visible.
You having a nice time?
I'm having a fab time. I'm just doing a little bit of sketching before we move on. Shall I show you?
Yeah. Now, what have you been up to?
So this is what I've just been doing here, which is the fishermen's huts and the tractor down on the beach. And at the top here, this was some seals that I drew when I was here a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah, lovely. You can see how they must mingle in with the sand and the dunes.
They just sort of snuggle in and they're perfectly contented.
And well hidden really, aren't they,
Yeah.
from predators. So in England, I wonder what would predate seals? Not a lot really, just humans
getting in the way, yeah. But I do know that the seal population on the East Anglian coast has really increased over the last few years. They've been doing really well here. They're very happy here.
So something's right, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think particularly the last couple of years of lockdown has meant there's been less people out.
Yes.
Less dogs on the beach, and they've had very successful years.
So where are we, Denise? Tell us where we are.
We are at Horsey Gap and we're watching some of the grey seals. There's not that many left now, but there's a few. Amazing.
We've got to just playing there in the shallows, haven't we?
Yeah. My guess is that they're juveniles, they're this year's young, so they've gone grey from the white.
Yeah.
But I'm not confident enough to head out to sea yet.
So where do they go once they've kind of left our shores?
Do you know, I'm not sure, but I can see a seal warden up the road. Should we go and ask them?
We'll go and be annoying, shall we?
Yeah, let's go and ask.
It's a lovely beach, isn't it?
It's beautiful. It's all part of that curve of East Anglia.
Really lovely beach.
Stunning sandy beaches all the way around.
And beautifully quiet again, everybody. You know, just the sound of the sea. I can't hear anything else. No traffic. No aeroplanes.
Question we had to ask was, when the seals, we know the parents leave the seals here and they eventually get hungry enough and they go out to sea. Where do they go? Do they stay local? Do they disappear?
It's because they're not tagged.
It's
We
difficult.
don't really know.
Okay.
Right? It's not been a study as such, but I've been reliably informed. They just sort of stay local.
So they just
Oh, okay.
hang around here and
they'll pop across the Holland and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But they will come. You know, they'll end up just in these waters here.
Well, we've seen them high summer,
Yeah.
the youngsters, you know, further down the coast on the
Yeah,
beach coming
yeah,
up. But
yeah.
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I've been told that they just sort of stay local. But if you notice that very few of them are tagged, whereas none
Yeah.
of them are tagged. So we don't. I
Actually,
don't think it's done a study where this colony goes.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's an open thing.
It's a mystery.
That costs money, doesn't it? If they ask that question on QI,
Yes.
right, there'll be a nobody knows.
Yeah.
that comes up.
Well, there you go.
Thank you ever so much. Thank you.
Oh, look at him having an arch of his back.
There's quite a few lost then, isn't there?
I was up there at the time. The first, well, right way up to here.
So Sharon,
Yes, darling.
I have brought you to Poppylands. So it's somewhere we're going to come for our brunch because we've not had anything to eat yet and it's cold and we're hungry. But it's a fabulous little cafe in Horsey, in Norfolk. And I'm going to take you in and we'll have a little look around because it's quite special.
Look at this Anderson shelter. My grandmother had one of these in the back garden. Of course, they were issued during the war and it had to be buried in the garden. But of course, after the war, my dad and my nan took absolutely weeks digging it up again. And we used to have this as a garden shed. And I can remember playing in there when I was a child and the smell of oil and paint and all the things that Dad used to keep in the back shed. So this is memories.
Do you know what is so delightful about this hot chocolate that we've got, Sharon?
No, go on.
It's pudding before dinner. So what have you got there, Mrs?
I've got corned beef hash with 2 eggs on top.
Fabulous. I've got ham, egg and chips with some peas.
I love the way it's served in a billy can.
It is, isn't it? It's fantastic. Enjoy. Tell us again how it all started.
I started at the age of about 4 when my grandfather gave me his wartime medal. So I started when he gave me them, and then from there on, I would be watching episodes of Dad's Army, Allo Allo, things like that. Ain't No Footman was one of his favourite programmes, and so me being the sort of child I was, I'd be pointing out uniforms or gas masks and saying, "I want that, I want that." And so my grandfather would take me to boot sales and auctions, and we would.
You lucky thing.
Oh, what a wonderful relationship to have.
Pocket money, I'd get a smelly old OXO tin or a tin helmet or something like that. So that's where it began. And then, as I say, I started up my museum in Scrapby at the age of about 6, where I used to basically show people my back garden, where all the in my garden shed I had the museum.
Yeah.
And then in my parents' back garden there must be over 10 sheds.
Oh gosh.
And then obviously that got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then I, at the age of 15, managed to get onto TV. So I got chosen to go on George Locke's Amazing Spaces, The One Show, the local news, international
Oh,
news.
how amazing.
I even
Fabulous.
got a phone call from Russia asking to appear on an education programme for Russia, for Russian schools. So I
So
said, oh,
what have we
this-
got here? Oh,
Well, this is my 1930s car, which I bought out of desperation of lockdown, something to do during lockdown. So
fantastic.
it works. It's fully functional. I call it Winnie, and I'm only the second owner. Process, as I say, I live the lifestyle the best I can, minus some of the cons of the era. So, as I say, vintage style, not vintage values.
Yes.
So I do have an indoor toilet. I do use toilet paper. I do have, but I draw the line at things like microwaves and having a
Okay.
TV in every room.
Yeah.
I appreciate.
So you try to keep it simple.
Yeah, but at the same time, I still have my personality on it because I don't want to say, oh yeah, I'm that weirdo who lives in the village who lives in the past, because I'm still want to be me.
Yes.
So my favourite, whenever people ask what sort of music I like, when I start saying, oh, the likes of Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds,
Yes.
they're suddenly like, oh, so you're not into Glenn Miller and stuff like that. I mean, well, I like him, but
Yes.
he's a bit overplayed. Got, in the kitchen, I've got a collection of vintage and antique cookery books.
Yeah.
But if you start looking closer, you'll also find the likes of 101 Ways to Kill Your Wife. And there's like 100 poisons you can find in your back garden. And books like that. Because
Okay.
my personality is a
We've
bit
just
like
eaten here, Sharon.
Yes.
that. In the house. So as long as I don't go and come down me, you're fine.
Okay.
But this is fabulous. The place you've got here. We've
Yeah.
been here a
We
few
love
times,
it.
and it's
Yeah.
just an
Well,
amazing
this has all
place.
just come because I was getting too old and to live with my parents. And it's getting
Yeah.
embarrassing to live with my parents.
Yes. Yes.
So I thought, oh, it's about time that I
Branch out, but
Branch
look,
out a bit
look
more,
how you've branched
and
out.
it's
It's
just getting bigger by the
amazing.
day. People donating all
Good
things
for
all the
you.
time.
Yep.
Some things big,
Yes.
and some things small.
Yeah.
So like today
And it
I've
all
had,
adds
like,
up to a
colours, all
wonderful
sorts.
whole, doesn't it?
Oh, it does, and it's. I mean, I'm gonna eventually. I'd like to start moving the collection here and have
Yeah.
the museum set up on
Oh, it'd be
here,
marvellous, wouldn't it?
in some form. Be it say a street scene like I've got at my mum and dad's house, or be it just a load of sheds with a load of stuff in them.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, does it? As
In-
long as it pulls
gets
people
seen,
in.
and so.
Oh, that's fabulous.
This
That's
is the first shed I've bought over from.
Well, it's
Home,
lovely. And it's nice.
fantastic. And you
I
got-
want a photograph of you with your glasses on in front
Yeah,
of
like
your
you're playing with glasses
beautiful
on or
car.
something.
Yes.
Well, I think that they're fun. I mean,
as I
that my dad used to have a pair of glasses like that.
Wow,
Yes.
Husky glass.
Okay, we have coffee.
Cheers. We have
Cheers.
coffee. Cheers.
Cheers. So what are we doing today,
I
Sharon?
feel like breakfast TV.
I feel like breakfast. We haven't had any yet.
No,
We're
what's
just
that?
too excited to get going.
What's that? What are we doing today? Well, as you know, yesterday we'd been out to go and have a look at the seals, and it was a bit cold, and it was rather poor old Denise. You might notice on some of the footage was actually shaking, and whilst she was recording the gentleman at the cafe, I sort of tapped my shoulder, and Denise came over and sort of put the camera and her hand on my shoulder. It made it easier. And we were too cold really to stand outside and paint, that's the point. So today we're here in Denise's studio and we're going to sit here and have a little go at some of the seals that we saw yesterday. But tell us about them, the colours and...
Oh, they were so well camouflaged because the seals that we saw yesterday were generally juvenile rather than baby, so we didn't have any of the white seals. The footage that I had of the white seals was from Christmas, New Year time. So these ones were juveniles just about ready to move on and make their way in the world. And they looked like pebbles on the beach.
They really did. I mean, you can understand how they are the colour they are. Evolution has camouflaged them just beautifully. Lovely greys, browns,
Splotches and
soft,
spatches.
yes.
And that's what I'm going to play with. I'm just going to play with all the colours that were on them. And I'm going to do a pattern. And then I'm going to see what I can make out of it and try and sealify them.
So we might get a bit of negative painting in here,
I
everybody.
think you're going to get some negative painting. What are you going to play with?
I want to have a little go at those colours and see what I can achieve with a bit of splashing and wet into wet, wet into nearly dry, so I'm hoping to actually create some cauliflowers, and I'd like to maybe I might try a little salt, I don't know. Just going to have a play.
See what happens. I don't think we're going to do any major paintings.
No.
It's just about playing
No.
with what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, we're just sketchified.
Yeah, and we're sat in the studio. We're in the warm. I've got the fire on, and it's just a much more comfortable place to
Lovely.
be compared to yesterday. Yes, yeah.
So let's see what we can do, shall we?
Okie dokie.
Okay.
Let's give it a go. My plan is I'm going to use my absolute favourite colour of all, which is muck off the palette. So it's coming into all these. You're laughing at me.
I like muck off the palette.
It's all these little corners because I think they're going to make the perfect browns and greys for my seals. And I'm not drawing anything out, and I'm not trying to make seals to start off with. I'm just looking at how these patterns are going to be created, and I want a pattern across the paper first.
So which colours? What colours are you using?
Well, the first one I'm using here is this, one of my favourite colours anyway, and it's a mixture of ultramarine and I think this is burnt umber in this particular.
I know it's muck off the palette, but I'm just thinking, what colours make muck off the palette in this instance?
Well, it can be anything. So if I just
For
bring this
you,
back
that's brilliant.
this
yeah,
is
so
my
people can
muck
see.
here,
Yeah,
and this is ultramarine and my burnt sienna.
yeah.
I've also popped a little bit of this in patches, and that's quinacridone
Oh,
gold.
I love that. Yeah,
But I'm just going to pull things out the corners and see what happens.
good stuff.
So what are you?
I am just going to... This one seal I fell in love with yesterday lying. I would have said sunbathing, but hardly, given the temperatures. And I just love the way that animals sometimes lie down and lift their faces up to the sun.
To the light.
And it's something that we do as humans, and you don't necessarily expect an animal to do it as well. And on the odd occasion that I have seen it, it makes my heart warm. I love to see... it's the way they lift their faces up and close their eyes.
But don't you think that then proves that it's not just us kind of going, I need some sunshine, I've been in the
Oh,
office for
totally,
days. It
yes.
proves that it's an instinct
Yes,
to
an
want
animal.
to turn to the light.
Yeah. And I love it. I remember driving years and years ago. We were driving along a motorway, sheep in the field as we drove past, and there was just this one sheep lying there like that, with its face up to the warmth of the sun. And I've never forgotten it. It's like one of those photographs in your memory.
Yes. I call those a bit of a blink photograph.
Yeah.
Just
the shutter catches it, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, looking at this, folks, you can see what we have to work around. When we're trying to film what we do, I've got my phone camera here and I'm working, and actually the camera is directly between myself and what I'm working on, so I'm having to look at the camera to see what I'm painting. So the things we do for you.
Oh, it's great fun. Freezing to death out in the cold, but that's another story.
Yeah, that was another story, wasn't it? Definitely.
Oh,
But these seals were all colours, weren't they? All the natural colours.
Yeah.
And it was very, very beautiful. Some very, very large males.
Oh, yes.
Tending to dark colours, weren't they, some of them?
And I
Almost
don't know
black.
if that's a genetic thing. It's just
No, I
that
don't.
the males round here have all been bred from a dark male,
Yeah, yeah.
or whether there is something more to it.
Possibly, yeah.
But very interesting. Had a bit of a tussle with a couple, didn't we?
Yeah,
Watched
not
them.
us.
No.
We didn't get involved.
No.
We just sat back and watched them. Yes, there was a male and a female on the water's edge having a little romantic moment, and then another male came over, didn't he?
Yes,
And he was
interfered.
bigger,
Yes,
and he was
yeah.
like,
Yeah. So there was a bit of face-off, wasn't there? Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. But nothing too nasty. But the beach was packed, wasn't it? They reckoned that there were probably 1,000 or more on the beach that we were looking at. But that was well spread. But further along the beach, there was a viewing platform, wasn't there? And they were saying that underneath the viewing platform, there were 1,000 seals down there. I've never seen them in this country like that. I've seen them in California when I've been out there. but I've never seen that many. But weren't they lovely, frolicking and swimming in the water?
Oh, and there was a couple of seals that just followed us along the shore,
Yes.
and they were just watching the people going up and down the shore. I'm sure they see us as much of a spectacle as we see
Oh,
them.
very probably, yeah. Now these are the pictures here that I did yesterday, these little sketches when we were outside, and I've deliberately used a brush that I know, a pen that I know bleeds with water, so that enables me to go in and just nudge, budge and smudge, because you do this with your food pen, don't you?
Yes, yeah.
Is that what you used yesterday?
No, I was just using a pencil yesterday.
Of course you were, yes.
Propelling pencil, sketching, so...
Yeah, useful toolie. So you've got to decide really with your art boxes when you go out, whether on your kit, whether you want to actually have a pen, if you're going to use it, that is going to run with water like this one, or whether you're going to go with the idea that you want the pen to be permanent and not smudge and budge.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could almost have two pens in your kit.
Yeah.
I can just show you. This is my pencil kit when I'm out and about. I've got my propelling pencil here. I've got a spare battery for my camera. That's always needed.
Please note you cannot paint with that.
No, I can't paint with that. I've got another pencil. I've got a water brush, and I've got my food pen. So, and this is a tin that I've had for a very long time. And if you have a look, it is falling apart.
No, it's very well loved.
It is very well loved. The hinges have gone on it. And do I change it for something better? No, it's my friend.
No.
I know exactly what's in it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It is broke, but I'm still not going to fix it. Toasty warm. Now what I've done here is I've just splashed my muck off the palette around, and it's semi-dry. I've dabbed the water off it, and I'm going to splatter another layer. So I want this to be in multiple layers. This is a bit more ultramarine. So I want the patterns underneath to kind of show through. So I want that base to be dry enough to not smudge into what I'm doing.
So now you want this to be more defined. Is that what you're saying?
Well, this layer, no, I'm still doing this layer as the similar sort of pattern, but on top of the other one. But I don't want them to bleed together.
Okay.
Yet, I kind of.
You want to control it.
Yeah, I am a control freak. I like uncontrolled control.
Nothing wrong with that.
Controlled uncontrolled. Is that a phrase?
Yeah, got to have a bit of control.
But I do like to feel out of control, but in a way that I know I can control. Am I making any sense at all? Do I ever make sense?
I must admit, I do like a bit of control, and I actually enjoy the fiddle. I like a bit of fiddle in my pictures.
I like when we get to the fiddle.
Yeah.
But I also like this point of just leaving it be.
Yeah.
Because I'm quite enjoying the patterns. If you have a look at how these patterns, I'm quite enjoying that. And these are my seals, but they're just not there yet.
Mm. And what you don't use, you can use as pebbles.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's all good.
Yeah.
And this does tidy up a bit of paint out your box.
Yeah, it's good for using up the bitses, isn't it?
Yeah,
like
the corners.
If you're using, yeah, I agree. Yes. Have a quick slurp of coffee.
Oh, I drank mine. Didn't hang around.
I'm not as fast as you, my darling girl.
What are you saying?
I'm going to work a little differently to you, I think, because I've drawn my seals out, and what I want to do now is come in there with a bit of water spray.
Excellent.
And then I'm going to drop some colour into that and see what happens.
So yours is going to be loose but in a controlled space.
Yes.
Mine is haphazard.
Nothing wrong with a bit of haphazard. So, oh no, there we go. See, this is the issue. Move the coffee out of the way, Sharon. because we all do that, don't we? Now I'm going to go into this with a bit of Payne's Grey. I do like the Payne's Grey.
Yeah. There's people get really sniffy about
Oh,
Payne's
I
Grey,
know,
don't
I
they?
like it. And
Particularly these seals were Payne's Grey.
They
Because
were.
it's not a black, is it?
Abs-
They were a
yes.
deep Payne's.
No two ways about it. And the other thing that I see in my colours, if we have a little look here, there's no doubt that some of them had this gorgeous raw sienna in it. So
tell me, Sharon, I've got...
no, that's raw umber.
I was going to say...
Everybody, that's raw umber.
I've got raw umber, I've got burnt umber, and then you've got raw sienna. What's the difference between raw sienna and raw umber?
Oh, well,
It's probably the pigment it comes from.
raw umber, yes, it's
One is
a
more
different.
opaque.
Yes, sienna comes from Spain, doesn't it? And
Yep.
it's a more yellowy stone.
Yes.
Because that's what it is at the end
It's
of the
ground.
day. It's soil. And if these colours are called burnt sienna and burnt umber, that's literally what it means.
they burn them.
They've been in the fire and they've been burnt. So you're dealing with the kind of oxidised, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Product.
It's amazing.
But the raws are just as they come out. Now the difference between raw sienna and raw umber, the umber is more brown, definitely more brown, donkey brown, that kind of colour. Whereas the sienna is a yellow, isn't it?
Yes.
And I do like it.
Yeah, yeah.
I do like it. Both of them are not opaque. Both of them are transparent colours. So again, lovely for seeing through things.
Yeah. Okay, so what I've got to is still damp, it's still wet in places, but I want to start positioning where I'm going so I can add more darks and lights in the right place.
Yeah.
So I'm coming in now with my pencil and I'm just going to position some random seal shapes.
Okay.
I'm drawing over wet paper, so I've got to be careful.
So are you using the shapes that you've got on the paper to guide you?
Yeah, I'm seeing shapes in my reference pictures, and just for example, this seal here is quite light
Yep.
in colour, and I've got a light patch
Right, so
here,
you'll
so I'm going
utilise
to
that.
put him in, or her in there.
Yeah. Trying to understand what colours I'm seeing in them. You know, it's so diverse, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? And they are kind of like slugs. There's not a lot of form to them. They're just sort of big in the
They're
middle.
not pretty, are they? You know, bless them. Their mums like them.
Yes.
But they are blobs on the beach.
Yeah. And what I have is I'm picking seals out that I think will make an interesting painting. So it's not exactly as per my reference.
No.
This guy's got as many double chins as me.
But interestingly enough, I noticed that the one that I've drawn here, along here, has actually got a crease in its back where it's squidged on the sand, you know.
Okay, yes. So we've got this pile of big fat lumps, aren't they?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, sausage shapes.
That's quite kind.
Were you saying about slugs on the beach, weren't you?
Yeah. Tell me what you're up to. Oh, those colours are beautiful.
Well, just letting them do their own thing and run and come down into the beach, because then when that's dry I can come over the top and put some colours on the beach as well.
Yep.
And it kind of makes the point that it all just blends, you know. Whereas having said that, on the picture I've got, they're actually on sand, interestingly enough.
Yeah, I don't think we've got. We'll have a picture.
We'll show
I've got
you
some
it,
pictures
yeah.
of them on the pebbles because they really did just kind of disappear into
Quite
them.
incredible, yes, yeah. So they've got quite dark snouts, haven't they?
Yes.
I'm going to go in there with a bit of dark. And beautiful liquid eyes.
Oh, and how?
And very, very long whiskers. So I'm going to go into mine afterwards.
Okay.
And put the whiskers in afterwards, because I like that very much.
Yeah. Now, having done my little pencil drawing, I kind of need to define these a little bit, and I'm going to use my food pen first and then come back in with some more paint. So The dark is on the top one, so I'm coming in with my food pen around the bottom seal, but then I'm going to run that up rather than the other way around, because the light is obviously on the top of the seals.
I'm going to put the eyes in when it's dry,
Yes.
so that they're positive and definite.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Now this was my light one, so I want to make sure, again, go around behind him. The one behind him is quite dark, but in this first instance I'm just using this to define my outlines. You're right.
Oh, it's all right. I couldn't see my spray. I thought I'd hidden my spray away. And my book's cockling a little bit. I'm not worried about that. That will push off and go away.
Yeah, I'll go right back.
So that's all right. If there's any doubt when it's closed and you're finished with it, just put some weight on it.
Yeah.
The one I've got here, I can actually see a little bit of burnt sienna in there, almost.
Yeah.
So I'm going to add it just to lift the colour a bit, I think. We'll see what happens. It's bled over the page, so that's all right. We'll come back into that in a minute and just give it a tickle.
The problem with it bleeding, look at what I'm doing, Sharon, the bleeding all over the place.
Oh, that's looking exciting.
I'm having fun. This isn't supposed to be so much fun, is it? Right, now I've got to work out where the dark is, and so that I put my water where the dark is to pull the ink away from my line. This chip up here, it's more about the water coming away. Do you ever have those scenarios where you're doing something that's really exciting but you actually have no idea what you're doing?
Yeah, at the moment, yes.
Yeah, just kind of going, it seems like a good idea.
Absolutely. I've only ever painted seals as kind of seal caricatures, you know.
Yeah.
Never sat down and thought about the shape. Before we did this, I had to get myself onto the internet to look at seals' faces, because I really didn't know how their muzzles worked. So, I mean, never worry about doing that. If you need to do it, because it'll give you a better picture.
Yeah. There's no such thing as cheating. If it gets you to the
Yeah,
point
I
you
agree.
need to be at, it's not cheating.
I quite agree. There's a lot of nonsense talked about watercolour, and you know, it's something I often say to students. You don't tell an acrylic or a mixed media artist that they're cheating when they're using a bit of cling film or salt, and you know, why should we be given all these rules with watercolour? I don't agree with it. If it works for you and you can paint it and enjoy it, do it.
Yeah. Oh, let's bring this.
The colours are lovely, aren't they? I really do. I like these colours very much.
Yeah, they're beautiful neutrals, aren't they? I'm now coming over to a slightly smaller brush. This is a Jackson Studio synthetic. I think this is, I don't know what size this is. It's got S505, but don't know. It's a little, a number 2. I can see it. I can just see it. Number 2. So it's a little one. I knew it would have the number on there. I'm going back in whilst some of this is still a little bit wet. I'm mixing my yellow ochre with a little bit of my quinacridone, and I'm just putting that down on the beachy bit.
Oh yeah, lovely. Look at that lift. All of a sudden.
So now I'm going to start actually painting rather
Yeah.
than just splishing. So now I've got my shapes. It's about, you know,
That really gives it a kick, doesn't it?
yeah. This one's got a light. I'm not sure whether it's its top or its bottom.
Yes. I know that worry yesterday when I was trying to take photographs.
This round bulgy bit
Quite
on
sure.
one end of it. So in order to make that pop, we need to make what's behind it sink.
Yeah, yeah. Light against dark, dark against light. That the muzzle of this particular little seal, although it's dark, has got this white edge to it which makes it show up against the darker seal behind it. And if you look at the bodies here, you've got the sunlight, my eye. There was none of that yesterday, was there?
There was no...
Whoa.
We couldn't even see the horizon.
Couldn't see the horizon. But the light that's falling is falling on the top of this seal, which makes the seal behind darker. So when you're painting, you have to think about these things. See the light all the way there against the dark. It fascinates me, and really once you've got that locked into your consciousness, it makes a big difference to how you paint, because you get that balance right.
And you're always looking for it.
Mm.
Once you start looking and seeing it, that's where you start seeing, you know, the joy in...
Yes.
We were discussing yesterday with trees, weren't we? Do you remember?
Yes, yeah.
And how hard it is to paint layers of trees,
Yes.
tree upon tree upon
Yes,
tree.
devilish.
But the only way to do it is to ascertain where the lighter bits are and where the darker bits are in terms of the actual trunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you look at the picture, you'll see that there's that little light bit there above their closed eyes, and that little bit of light, if we can get that into the picture as well. So there's the light, so I've put the dark behind it, so that when I put the eyes in, little closed eyes, hopefully, are you ready? Let me make sure I've got my pictures so that I get them at the right angle. You've got a little closed... Oh, it's going to run too much. Now that's what happens when you're impatient and you go in too fast.
We all do it, folks.
It's not the end of the world, everybody. Look. Clean the brush, get rid of the drips, dab, dab, and then go in and use your brush as a mop. There you go. So you see, it's not the catastrophe that it could have been, and it doesn't look too bad. So I'll wait now, and I'll do that in a second when that's dry. And what we'll do now is we'll come through here and just add a little bit of something through in the foreground. So as they are lying on sand, I want to just wet that a tad and come in with... This is not yellow ochre. I don't like yellow ochre. I find it's too claggy. I like my I like my paint to be transparent. So that's raw sienna. Colours very akin to yellow ochre, but it won't clutter up your picture, and it doesn't tend to go dirty when you mix it with other colours, and that's really quite important. I want a little bit there.
That just shows that we're all different in the paints we use, and it's all okay.
Yes.
It's not that you have to have your raw sienna, it's not that you have to have
No.
yellow ochre, it's that you have to understand how they work. And then choose how to use them.
Exactly. And in actual fact, now I'm just going to go in and run a little bit between my seals up here from yesterday, just to make sure that they're all grounded. So that's fine.
Oh, that's fine. It just gives them a position,
Yeah.
isn't it? It gives them on the beach. Instead of floating on your paper, they're now on a beach.
Yeah. And if it bleeds, it's fine, because that will just create the shadow that's under the seals. So I'm happy with that as well.
Gosh.
Right, I'm going to leave this one in the middle here for a minute, because I want this one to dry off a bit, and I'm going to come up to my little cheeky one with his head up.
So you're still doing quite a bit of wet into wet, aren't you, actually?
I'm not trying to. I'm just too impatient to let it dry.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But yes, no, I am splushing the colour around a little bit so that it becomes that soft edge. I don't want hard edges on what I'm doing with these colours.
I've just started to go in now with a few details with drier paint on dry paper so that I can get a bit of definition now. It's nice, isn't it, on a day like today? It doesn't matter that it's dull and dingy and cold outside.
No, not at all.
No.
And it really is dull and dingy and cold again, isn't it?
Mm.
We thought today was going to be better, didn't we?
Well, they did promise us a bit of brightness, but we haven't had it yet.
No.
My colours, I'd like a scarf in these colours.
You make one, you make scarves.
Yeah, I know, but I never make them for myself. they always go out there to the customers and
all the ones that are glorious, somebody says, oh, I like that one. Can I have that
it's
one?
gone,
And you're like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, that happens with the jewellery, actually. I wear the jewellery and people see, where did you get that? Oh, well, I made it. Oh, can you make me one?
Right.
And it's easier just to take it off my neck 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, so I have this one, and
yes.
I'll make another one.
But you don't always do it, do you?
No. This is much more fun than having an anticipation of something. You know, we've come into this today with the idea of playing, haven't we?
Yeah, oh, totally. Yes,
and we just thought we'd see what happens.
Yeah.
And actually, I quite like what's happening for both of us.
I've got a seal here. I don't know whether I made him up or where he's come from, really.
Where?
This one here.
Did you draw him out yesterday as part of your main?
No, I've done him this morning, but it doesn't matter. I'm just having to use my imagination. No harm in that, is there?
No, not at all.
Oh, flipper, that's what's missing. I need a flipper up here because he's kind of lying over on his side, although he's twisted his head round. So they get into some real contortions, don't they, on the beach?
They do, don't they? Yes.
I tell you what, though, they're hilarious when they have scratch, aren't they?
Yeah.
They were lovely yesterday.
Oh, and that little white one, I'll put it in the video. The little white one sucking its thumb.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so cute.
Now, isn't that interesting? Because, you know, we know human babies do that, and they even do that in the womb sometimes, don't they? But to see a baby animal suck it, I know some cats do it as well. They suck one of their fingers. But yeah, interesting. So my next plan with this little lot is to come in there, and I want to wet a bit more of it. I shall use. I'm just thinking about how I'm going to handle it, everybody. It's all right. So I'm going to wet.
You can see her brain working.
Yes, you can hear it.
I
I'm
can
going to wet some of that.
I need to go and have some breakfast soon.
You brunch, wasn't it? It's 12:30.
Oh, crikey. See, that's what happens when you get carried away.
Yeah. So I'm coming into a bit of split. Now stand back. Stand back.
It's usually me that splatters all over your work, isn't it?
So I just want a little bit of that, so that will represent the. So it's wet down here, and it's gone on dry onto the seals, and that's fine. Quite happy with that.
Yes.
There. So I might go away and see if I can find a little quote of poetry or something about seals, and I might put that in there.
Oh, that would be lovely.
So that's just a thought.
You're good at doing that in your journals, aren't you?
Well, I like that. Or, you know, something that Denise and I did yesterday. I might write down the name of the cafe and what we had for lunch, or the drink. Oh, we had hot chocolates to die for, didn't we?
Oh, we don't talk
So,
about that.
you know,
In
it
public.
could be interesting just to do that, or to put the hot chocolate mug in here to kind of complement the page. And then that page is a day in the life of, with all those things that are evocative and evoke the feeling and the tastes.
And the memories. Yeah. Right, there we have sealage.
Yes, lovely. And it's exactly the colours, isn't it?
Yeah. I want to come and put a bit more of that quinacridone down in between them. And I know the beach was kind of quite pale yellow, whitey yellow, rather than a yellow yellow, wasn't it? It's quite a pale one. But I think it, in terms of the painting, I just think it does a little something. And there's not actually that many places where on this I can see the beach part.
That's it. I need to put the glasses down because I can't see.
Often helps.
Oh, it's lovely, isn't it? All getting older, lark.
No, don't like this getting older lark.
Oh my goodness.
Just get more revolting, that's my plan. Yeah, so I want to add a little bit of small highlight on the eye. And pens aren't really cutting it for me at the minute because I haven't got one that hasn't run out of ink. So I've reverted back to a little bit of acrylic.
Yep.
It's just a tiny little
Oh yeah, look at that. Good chin.
dot on there. And this one's whiskers come this way and they're white. So again, can I get them fine enough? There we have his whiskers going that way. And actually going the other way, they're darker than the background, so I'm just going to put a couple of little darker whiskers. And then I'm going to brush them away with a bit of a damp brush, just to make them even finer. There we go, I think.
Oh, that's lovely, yeah.
He has a face.
All I want to do now is just take a fine pen, so I'm going to use a Pentel Superfine Point, and I want to come in to my little seals, and all I'm going to do now is think about where these whiskers are, and they're here. As I say, they've got little rounded cheeks, and I want to bring my whiskers out, and they come forward and out like this. One stroke, just one stroke. And this time I'll come this way. And that just draws your eye straight to their face and says, hey, I'm Whiskers, look at me. So that's that one. And then this little devil here, because he's got his head so twisted and turned, he again, look.
Why do we call them he's? They're probably more likely
I don't
to
know,
be
it's
hers.
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And therefore I've got my little whiskers here. I just want to define that snout a bit there. And the eye. Make those eyes a little more rounded there. And just, that's the nose, you see the shape of the nose, so that's fine with that. And you don't need a lot of detail, as Denise is saying, you know, the more detail you put in, the more you have to put in.
Because you're not leaving it to anybody's imagination.
No,
So
I
I
don't
quite
want to
like
do that,
yeah.
just want to leave it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, something a little different. Rather nice to see the seals.
Fabulous, wasn't it? They were amazing.
Thoroughly enjoyed that. So please come back, see us another day. What have we got in store? What's next? We're out off tomorrow videoing and recording, aren't we? And
But we don't know what's going to happen, we never do.
wait and see. And if you want to see, don't forget, subscribe to Travelling Brush Dippers on YouTube, and that means next time you can come and
Dip into our conversation.
just laying some shadows in on the underside of them to kind of ground them on the sand.
Okay.
Because at the moment they're floating.
You don't want something this shape to look like a floater. I'm not sure that would be able to go in.
No, I don't know about that. Cut! Funnily enough, I had a paint producer approach me a couple of weeks ago by email with their website and what you can have done, tubes of paint, and the price was eye-watering.
Nice
if you wanted
idea.
to buy it, you'd need to buy another mortgage.
Shame,
So
isn't
yeah,
it?
nice idea. But the problem is, you see, with things like that, good idea it may be, but you have to have a batch made, and then by the time you have the labelling done with your own name on it, and there are so many lovely brands out there now, it just knocks you off the market, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Really?
completely.
So, never mind.
Nice idea. One day somebody will come to us and say, should we do some travelling brush dippers colours for your plein air painting? And we can have my only shade of grey, as I call it.
Yeah. Oh, Norfolk shade of grey.
Norfolk
that is my
grey.
girl.
Yes, Norfolk grey.
Yeah.
That's really what sketchbooking can be. It's a memory book, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I've put music in there as well. So you see, yesterday we found Denise recommended a new singer to me, and we sat down last night and we watched some of that on YouTube on the TV. And so that particular song that we were listening to, that I've still got going round in my head, I could write that down here. So what was his name?
Willie Allen, and he's an American country singer, but it's not too country. And he's just, his voice is just incredible. Dare I say how I found him?
Go on.
We watched The Masked Singer, and I was searching for voices to try and work out who somebody was, and I came across this guy. It's not him, but it was, you know, when you kind of listen to somebody's voice and you just go, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And that's what it was.
Yeah. I was listening to it on TV, and as Denise was talking to me, the music caught my attention to such a degree that I had to look at her and say, sorry, are you talking?
It happens to be quite a lot. Particularly with my husband. He's like, oh, did you say something? No, it's fine.
Subscribe.
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 Subscribe. I subscribed. Have you subscribed?
Yes, I've subscribed.
Fabulous.
Have you subscribed,
Please
though?
subscribe.
Travelling Brush Dippers on YouTube. Subscribe now.
Subscribe.
Come.
Just subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe.
Subscribe.
Yes, but come and
Dip into our conversation. Once you've
Subscribe.
subscribed.